Welcome to EPG Padasala. I am K. Mavali Rajan from Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Vishwabharati, Shantiniketan. The module I am going to discuss with you about the Cholas and their banking, taxation and coinage system in the subject of the economic history of India. Before entering the topic concerned, I would like to give some of the background of the Chola history, which we consider as the important in the historical, the background of the South Indian history. The Cholas were the powerful dynasty. They ruled in the Kaveri Delta regions. That the Kaveri river belt, they paved the way for the economic development of the Chola dynasty. They laid the foundation for the cultural development. They laid the foundation for the political expansion in the South India, inside the territories, outside the territories. These are some of the significant of the Chola dynasty. They were very powerful in the political achievement as well as the all field achievements. The learning objective of the present module to understand about the economic condition of the Chola period. They study about the banking system. They study about the revenue system of the Cholas, their taxation policies, the various items of the taxes which levied and collected from the people. It also highlights the coins and the currency system of the Cholas. The various terms of the Chola coins and their significance also we are going to discuss in detailed manner. When we introduce the concept of the banking, the coinage and the currency system and taxation of the Cholas, we should understand the introductory part of the Chola dynasty. The Chola had the fullest control over the resources of the state. They had a separate department to maintain the committee that is called the Revenue Committee, which we referred in the inscription as the Varium. The Varium is the separate committee to levy the taxes and collect the taxes from the people. The taxes levied according to the norms of the Hindu, the Manusastra. The Cholas also followed the Manusastric idea of collection of the taxes. They levied taxes on people after the proper consideration of their income and expenditure details. The Chola kings, they were collected the many sources from the people. They stored the collection in the bank treasury. Now we'll discuss about the banking system and its functions during the Chola period. The banking was known to them. The essence of banking system may be taken to be a manipulation of the credit and debit system of those days. It rendered the immense services to the emergence of the trade and industry for the development of the commercial activities during the Chola period. Lending money and receiving deposit were the main functions of the banks during the Chola period. The system of credit and debit is also seen in the Chola period, which we get it mostly from the inscription of the Chola country. The merchants, guilds and other corporate bodies received the deposits and lent them to the businessmen to develop the commercial activities. The transaction of borrowing and lending are associated with the merchant community. Many manufacturing and trade groups also were attracted by the banking facility of the Chola community. Chola inscriptions have references to the banking system of and their functions in detailed manner. When we discuss about the different the functions of the bank as well as the temple bank, we should understand the role of the different social institution in mobilizing the revenue for the state administration. During the Chola period, the temple played vital role as a bank. Even though the temple also played vital role in different dimensions, during the Chola period, temples were considered as the educational institution, as the meeting place of the kings, as a treasury, as a entertainment place, as a padasala. It played a vital role. The banking also the important system which we expect from the temple. It's played a vital role as the bankers. The temples of South India, especially during the Chola period, they played a vital role as a bank. It stored and distributed the state revenues for the welfare of the people. There are many studies says that, especially the historians K. A. Nilakanta Sastri, A. Appadurai, T. V. Mahalingam, C. Meenakshi, and others signified the role of the temple in banking activities. They deposited in the bank treasury. They utilized these deposits for the welfare of the peoples. Giving loans to the merchants was one of the important the work of the bank. That other also the other financial the commitment also the bank as a temple played vital role in the commercial transaction. Temple also provided loan to village assembly for developmental activities. Most of the loans were given for productive activities such as the cultivation process, cattle breeding, trade activities, as well as other the commercial activities of the merchant communities. So, temple it's a played vital role in the mobilizing the revenues for the state, as well as also it's played a vital role in the credit and debit of the revenues. The main customers of the temple bank included the village assemblies, the Brahmin assembly, temple employees, agriculturalists, and other functionaries become very valuable customers of the bank, the temple bank. They collected money, they invested for their agricultural development as well as the trade activities. So each Chola temple had a treasury which served the purpose of a bank. Large endowments in the form of land, gold, money, and other the properties were bestowed on the temple, which made the temple a richest institution in early medieval South India. The many donors from royal family to the individuals to the collected members, they donated in gold and money to the temple banks. The Chola temples delivered an economic functions as a banker which really helped the agrarian society and business class at the time of the early medieval period. Now we're going to discuss about the taxation policy and the taxation method of the Chola government. The Cholas collected the many sources from the people, which mainly the taxes were the main source of income of the Chola state. The king, by virtue of the supreme authority, had right to collect taxes from the people. According to Dharma Shastra, the king was authorized to levy the taxes on the people, on the professional community, on merchant class, and other occupational groups. Taxation was considered as the royal privilege in Chola period. The king had every right to collect demands, the taxes from the people. They had every right to spend the taxes for the welfare of the people. As per the inscriptions of the Chola state, there are many taxes we get as the references. There are many technical terms of the different taxes of the Chola period. The various taxes were collected during the Chola period. The taxes were known in Tamil as vari or irai. These are the very common terms for the taxes we get from all the Chola inscriptions. The Chola inscription referred to various terms of the taxes. There are reference to the term kadamai or irai, kudimai, Antrayam, Vetti, Muttaval, Tattar Patam. They were confined to either the Chola tax of the Tondamandalam or other regions of the South India. Mainly, these taxes were imposed on the agricultural community or the commercial groups or any other the occupational groups. Here, the Irai and Kadamai are primary land tax levied on the landowners. The term Kudimai is a labor or service tax levied on the cultivators of the land during the cultivation process of the land cultivation. The Patam and Ayam are the taxes imposed on non-agricultural professional groups like artisans and the merchant communities. Apart from this, there are some other taxes also collected from the people by the state of the Cholas. The Chola collected some various taxes. On the basis of the evidences, the taxes are broadly classified into the 6 categories. The first one, the land tax, which collected from the landowners. The second one, the commercial and occupational taxes, which collected from the commercial community and the occupational groups. There is also the minor dues which collected from the people. The fees and payments also is one of the most important, the taxes which give the revenues to the Chola state. There are also some incidental revenues, that is also known as the emergency taxes, which were collected by the state during the emergency situation. There are also some judicial fines which imposed on the defaulter. They paid the taxes to the state during the punishment time. During the Chola period, among the taxes of the Chola period, the land tax was played vital role. It was the prominent tax. It gives the revenue to the Chola state. During the Chola period, land tax was the important revenue of the state. 1/6 or 1/3 was collected as land revenue according to the fertility of the soil. The various land tax collected from the people. The early Chola inscription used the term Puravu for the land tax. Here, the Puravu means the land. Some of the inscriptions says the Puravu Pon, the tax which collected in money on the land of from the landowners. But commonly used term for the land tax was Irai. The Irai, which means stand for a collection of the taxes from the cultivable lands. During Rajaraja period, the term Kadamai was also used to denote the land tax. These Kadamai, we get it from the Meninchola inscriptions. Other terms like Panjavaram, Iraikadamai, Nilakadamai, Nilavari, Puravayam, these all the terms which denotes the land tax which collected during the time of the Cholas. There are frequent references in the Chola inscription to Puravuvari Thinaikalam. These the term which indicate the land revenue department of the Chola period, which indicate the very active function of the land revenue department during the Chola period. The department had very enormous responsibility to collect the taxes from the people. Mainly, the responsibility of the land revenue department to maintain revenue accounts, levy the taxes, survey of land, assess the land taxes, maintain the revenue records, and keeping all the land rights of the people in a particular records. So, the Puravuvari Thinaikalam, a separate department, it's collected the land revenue from the people and is decided the distribution pattern of the land revenue to the people. The revenue register of the Chola state was known as Varipottagam, which is record of the land rights and taxes based on the enquiries and surveys. Both on central and local bodies collected taxes from the landowners, cultivator, agricultural laborers. They all there the collection of the land which registered in the land register, that is called the Varipottagam, which is very familiar, the factor, familiar terms which we get it in frequently from the Chola references. Apart from the land tax, during the Chola period, water tax also collected from the landholders. It was levied on land when a common water source was used for the irrigations. The water tax variously referred in Chola inscription as Neervilai, Neervilai Kuli, Neerkirai. These three terms which indicate those who use the irrigation sources for their agricultural purpose, they had to pay their taxes to the government in the form of the paddy or in the form of any kind. Apart from the land tax collected from the people, some lands were exempted from the paying of the land tax. There are many tax-free lands during the Chola period. These tax-free lands referred in the Chola inscription as Iraili. Iraili, which stand for the tax-free land during the Chola period. Chola inscriptions mention the following lands considered as the Iraili lands. The lands which donated to the temple, that is called the Devadana land, which is also considered as a tax-free land. The land donated to the Brahmins, as known as the Brahmadaya, also exempted from the paying of the land tax. So, then Thiruvilayattam, Pallichandam, Madapuram, Pattaviruthi, these land also totally exempted from the land taxes to the state. That is all we consider as the Iraili land. Another kind of the tax remission was also we find during the natural calamities. During these kind of the situations, the Cholas, they collected some emergency taxes from the people. Apart from the land taxes and the land tax free land, there are the state also collected the commercial taxes from the people. On the commercial goods passing through the high roads, a toll was levied. This toll tax was generally known as Ulgu or Sungam in Chola inscriptions. All the commercial goods were subjected to the payment of taxes. Mostly traders, those who involved in inland trade as well as the foreign trade, were assessed for the duty that is known as Vanigar Per Kadamai, which simply stand for the traders that had to pay the taxes during the time of the commercial transaction. The Chettis, the powerful, the merchant community of the South India, they also paid taxes to the government, the tax known as the Chettirai. Chettirai mean the payment of the taxes by the Chettiar community of the South India. These commercial taxes were collected from the individual traders and sometimes collectively on the merchant guilds. The merchant guilds of the South India like Manigram, Nanadesi, Ayyavol, they paid their commercial tax to the government directly, they paid their taxes. In Chola inscription, there are also some terms like Angadi Kuli, which is Angadi here, which mean a market, Kuli mean a rent. Those who have a marketplace or a shop in a temple or any temple town, they had to pay a tax that is known as Angadi Kuli to the government. Duties were also levied on commodities sold in the market as well as in the temple shops. Apart from the land tax, the commercial tax, the people also paid professional tax during the time of their professional activities. Various kind of professional taxes were levied on the occupational groups. They levied taxes on skilled artisans such as goldsmith, blacksmith, carpenter, stone cutters. They also paid their professional tax to the state directly. Tax levied on goldsmith called Tatar Pattam. Tatar means here the goldsmith, the Pattam means a tax levied by the goldsmith. On blacksmith, the collar Udaipatam imposed. On weavers, known as Tharirai imposed. Idaipatam levied on shepherds. Oil pressers also paid tax known as Chekkirai Patam to the state. The washermen also paid tax called Vanna Kuli. That is known as Vanna Kuli. It stands for the payment of the washermen to the Chola state. Apart from these popular taxes, there was also a minor dues which collected by the state from the Chola period. Apart from popular taxes, minor dues also collected. An important minor dues is poll tax levied on cultivators. Alvari is a term referred to the tax on agricultural labors. Brahmins also paid a poll tax. Marriage tax also prevalent during the Chola period. A levy on house known as Manairai was imposed on those who have house property during the Chola period. Apart from these, there are some fees and payments which existed during the Chola period. These various payments were demanded from the people for the various services rendered by the state officers. Adhikara Pon, which stands for a payment demand by the Adhikari, which means state official, those who perform their state functions, they had to pay a taxes as in the name of Adhikara Pon. Then Iraha Niyamam was another payment demanded for dispatch and delivery of royal orders during the emergency situations. There are also some incidental revenue that is called emergency revenue, some taxes imposed on special occasion during the wartime, during the financial crisis, during the emergency situations, the Chola state imposed and collected some of the emergency taxes from the people. During the wartime, emergency tax was collected to meet the war expenses. For the maintenance of army, the war levy imposed on people during the time of the wartime. There were also some judicial fines. Judicial and other fines were also source of income of the Chola state. The judicial fines are referred as Tandam in Tamil inscription. This Tandam was imposed on defaulter at various levels. Uttaramerur inscription of the Cholas, especially Parandaka first, mention clearly the nature of the Tandam and the way of the collection of the Tandam from the people. Tandam levied at three places. First one at the King's Court, at a court of justice, in revenue department on account of tax default. Most of the taxes, whether it is land tax, whether it is the commercial tax or any professional tax, they were collected in kind. Land tax was normally collected in paddy. The tax on plough was collected in paddy. Sometimes tax on land was insisted in money. Taxes on professional groups were imposed in money. The tax demand were sometimes collected both cash and money in Chola period. The Chola, apart from the various taxes, there was a significant change in the Chola period we can find in their historical background. They issued large number of the coins. The Chola coins, very familiar in the South India, they issued large number of the coins such as silver coin, gold coin, copper coin. The Uttama Chola, he was the first Chola ruler. He issued gold and silver coins in which by his name Uttama Chola coins in Nagari script. Rajaraja issued more number of coins in his regions. A peculiar type of coins in pure gold, silver and copper was issued by Rajaraja during his tenure. They are found in several thousands in South India. He also issued large number of gold coins. Similar coins were also issued by his son Rajendra first under his own name, Sri Rajendra and Kangaikonda Cholan. The Kangaikonda Cholan was very famous title of the Rajaraja Chola. He earned the title after the Ganga victory of the Ganga region. After returning from the Ganga victory, Rajendra issued a coin in the memory of the victory of the Gangaikonda, that the name which he beared in the coins, which is called the Kangaikonda Chola coins. The Chola coins was very familiar in the South India. This kind of the Chola coins copied by the kings of Sri Lanka also. With the growth of the Chola power, the currency system was also extended over the whole Chola empire as well as even beyond the Chola territories. The Chola coins came to be light through archaeological excavation at various places, mainly the excavations at Kavaripattinam. The archaeologists excavated the many Chola coins in that particular place. They are mostly square in shape, in different size, and depict a standing tiger, the emblem of the Chola state. Various terms of the Chola coins, we get it from inscription as well as the literary sources of the Chola period. Chola issued gold, silver and copper coins. The gold coins are referred as Gatiana, Kasu, Kalanju, Madai, Pakoda, Pun, Varaha, which all these terms we get it from the Chola inscriptions. The Kalanju often occurs in Chola inscriptions is interpreted sometimes as gold weight and sometimes as coins. The term pon simply means gold. A pon was equivalent to Kalanju coins. Kasu was also a general term which applied to coins in Tamil country. The Panam have referred to as a gold coin during the Chola period. The Tamil term Madai referred to various gold coins. The Chola inscriptions speaks of Madurandahan Madai, Rajaraja Madai, Klothunga Madai, which indicate that the coins Madai issued in the name of the Chola kings. During the Chola period, gold was measured by the standard unit Gatiana or Kalanju. Inscription of Varandaha equate the term Kalanju with the Sanskrit term Nishka. Apart from these, the Chola inscription also mention the term of Karunkasu. From the time of Klothunga III, the term Kasu comes to be applied in larger level, which mainly means the copper coins of the Klothunga period. If we conclude the lecture, there are many significant changes took place in the banking system, the taxation policy, as well as the coinage system of the Chola period. The Chola played a vital role in mobilizing economic resources. Temple played a vital role as a bank. It's also played a vital role as their state treasury. The Chola had levied a large number of taxes. They assessed of the rate of taxes, which was very systematic and scientific manner. They issued large number of gold and silver copper coins. Mostly the coins were used in the revenue collection as well as in the trade and commercial activities. Thank you very much.